Hello, everyone. Welcome to Purpose in Parenting. My name is Jessica Israel, and this is a podcast for those of us who have found or are finding our purpose in parenting. Just a quick disclaimer, this is real life for real parents. So if you hear a child in the background, you hear some noise, we will not be editing it out. And the purpose is to really relate, to talk about the truth of what we go through, and to really just have that conversation amongst ourselves with others who can relate. So it may not be perfect, but guess what? Life with kids never is. Now, let's get into our new episode. Okay, so today, let's talk about the toxicity in these parent groups online. Wow. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this. If you've been on Reddit, if you've been looking at, I guess, maybe even Twitter comments or Facebook comments and things like that, you've seen the toxicity with these parents. Even looking at the different message boards, like what to expect and things like that, I've really been blown away. Recently, going on the Beyond the Bump board on Reddit, I was looking at a few different threads and I was shocked because people will post something that is seemingly innocent, just talking about their own situation or seeking advice, or maybe just venting, or perhaps they just have a different opinion that isn't like yours. And they will get eviscerated. Not only will they just get voted down, but people will put so many harsh, critical, mean, demeaning, condescending comments to them. And I'm honestly always shocked. Maybe I shouldn't be, because we know this world is not lollipops and gumdrops, and people are jerks. You have great people, but you also have a lot of jerks. Every adult knows that. I mean, unfortunately, even kids learn that pretty early from school and peer groups when, folks are bullied and things like that. But I guess I always had this idea that when someone becomes a parent, they're changed. Their perspective is changed. Their outlook on life has changed. And I guess maybe that's just because of my own experience and my own journey. And I know that everyone's is not going to be like mine. I know that not everyone will relate to this podcast. To be truthful, some people have children and they just don't want them. Some people have children and they don't like them. Some people have children and they feel like that it was the worst mistake they ever made, or their children are really just a burden and they can't wait to get them out the house. They'll say, oh, I love my kids, but the reality is they want as minimal time with them as possible. We know this. I mean, that's literally what provoked me to start this podcast, because I wanted to give a different voice, because we see so much of that in the media. We see so much in the media where it's like, oh, great, the kids aren't around. Oh, man, finally, I have a break. Everything is about getting rid of your children instead of the time you spend with your kids and engaging with your children and creating memories with your children. So I guess I shouldn't be shocked, but I still always am. I guess that little bit of naivete rings and I'm always shocked. And I shake my head and I walk away disappointed and almost somewhat saddened at the state of how things are with people. Where you go on these boards, like I was saying, I went on Beyond the Bump actually, and it's not just for Beyond the Bump, but it's a lot of them. But this one specifically I was on. And someone talked about an experience they had and they felt really terrible. They weren't a bad mom from what they described. They just felt really terrible. They felt like they made, mistake, not with having their child, but They felt like they made a mistake and they felt so terrible. And everyone was like, listen, this is a rite of passage with, your kids. I think their child was, sitting on the sofa and they went real quick, just a few feet away, and the child rolled off and they felt terrible. And everyone knows that every kid's going to bump their head. Obviously, you want to watch your children. You want to baby proof as much as possible. You want to have soft surfaces. But that doesn't make someone a neglectful parent because they ran real quick to get their child a snack or to get something, 5 feet away, and the child rolled. It happens. Doctors get these calls every day. Nurses' lines get these calls every day. But people began to just go after her. Instead of just saying, hey, it's good that you took your child to the doctor, it's good that you got them checked out, people were either criticizing her for the child rolling, which is very common, or criticizing her for bringing the child to the doctor and not just sucking it up. And it's like, well, goodness, she's danged if she does, she's danged if she doesn't. And it was just one of those situations where you're like, wow, you're looking at this. You're like, okay, this is a fellow mom. This is a fellow parent. She came on here for support because this is supposed to be all parents on here. We're supposed to be supporting and uplifting each other, talking about our different struggles, our wins, our joys, the pains, stresses. And instead, she's getting beat down. And that's the last thing that she needs. And we don't want parents feeling this way because mental health and mental state is important for a parent to be able to parent effectively and positively. Because if the parent is not all together mentally, how can they take care of their child? And how can they impart positivity on their child? And, give them a supportive and healthy environment if they're not all the way together or feeling good. And when people are parents, they're creating and raising individuals who will one day be adults in this world. They're raising your future neighbor. They're raising your child's potential future spouse. It's not a job that is just something to be taken lightly. Parenting is important. That's why I started this podcast, to shed a light on parenting and give it the respect that it deserves. If you stay home with your child, whether you are a mother or father or whoever, and you're staying home and you're taking care of that child, that's a big deal. Yes, it's a sacrifice to go out and work and lose that time with your child. That is a big sacrifice. But it's also a big sacrifice to stay home, because that is a lot of your personal time that you're giving up. That's saying that, hey, my child is this priority, and literally dedicating my life to them, to raising them. Now, that's not to say that someone who works outside the home doesn't do that, obviously, because unfortunately in this day and age, a lot of economics make it so that people can't. But if a person is able to and they are willing, they shouldn't be shot down for that. They shouldn't be made to seem or feel like they are lazy, or they're not doing anything worthwhile, or they're not making any impact in society or something of the sort, because they are. It's a big job. But I really wanted to discuss the toxic nature of these groups, especially if you're a parent at home. Well, you know what? A parent, period. A lot of times you can feel very secluded because whether you're at home or whether you're going to work, the time you have for yourself is very minimal. Maybe the only person you have to talk to is your partner at home, if you have a partner. So you go to these boards and you're hoping for some sort of camaraderie, something to lift your spirits. The last thing you're looking for is for someone to beat you up. The last thing you're looking for is for someone to tell you how terrible you are. And the way that opinions are not appreciated or celebrated is a big problem. I will say that on the what to expect boards, though, it's a little bit different because there are so many boards within that. It's not like Reddit where you're going to be on the bump and it's just all parenting things in general. Beyond the bump, you may have someone who is, pro veganism, another one who is, pro meat only. I don't know, just different things like that, where at least you can kind of find a group who supports your decision a little bit more. But you still do run into that criticism. And, then it makes you think, well, goodness, no wonder some people are jerks, because if this is who they're being raised by, if this is their parent, then this is what they're being taught. What kind of energy are you giving in your home and to your child? What are you imparting on them? That it's okay to bully, that it's okay to be negative to people. I went on there to talk about the podcast a little bit. Actually, not even really to talk about the podcast, but I wanted to let people know about it. And I commented on something, and I was saying, how I really found my purpose in being a parent. And then I was, why I started this podcast, how finding that purpose really inspired me to start it. And people were negative about it. It was very strange. I mean, this is a parenting message board. Why would there be negativity about finding your purpose in being a parent? Just because I said, well, hey, I started a podcast to even talk about it. It would be great. If anybody feels the same way, I know our voices aren't always heard. Here's a place where you can feel welcome and you can listen. And of course, you had 2 people come in and write negative comments. And it's like, what is the point? Parents are busy. You took time out of your day to go and write 2 negative things that's on a positive post? It's weird. Another woman, she was talking about how happy she was and how much she appreciated that her partner let her sleep in. The way that they work their lives out, they basically have shifts with the baby. And that would have been her shift, but she was up with the baby really late and she ended up sleeping in. And it was her partner's day off. And so on his day off, usually, it's his only day to sleep in, they'll usually let him sleep in. But because she had a rough night, she woke up, at like 10 a.m. worried, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I slept so late, the anxiety. And she went down and she saw that her partner had been with the baby, playing with the baby, feeding the baby, taking care of the baby, and everything was fine. And she was just so appreciative because that was supposed to be his day to sleep in. And instead, he knew that she had a rough night the night before and let her sleep in instead. Didn't wake her up and just took the baby. And she was praising him for that and said, I'm really happy I have someone who basically has my back, who is supportive of me, who is taking part in this journey with me. I didn't have to ask her anything. He did it, and I appreciate it. Especially because on these things, you see so many messages of people being frustrated with their spouse and saying they're not picking up their slack or other things like that. So after this woman is praising her partner for this wonderful thing that he did for her, which showed that he appreciated all that she does. And so he was trying to show that to her. And then she was showing, and telling everyone how much she appreciated him, which I thought was wonderful. I mean, that's great. Isn't that what we all want? And she got a lot of negative comments from it. People were complaining that she used the term let her sleep in. They were complaining that she was offering any praise for anything that her partner did because that's just normal behavior that he's supposed to do and he doesn't deserve to be thanked for it. It was strange. It's like, wait a second. What's wrong with someone telling the person that they love and that they're sharing a life with that they appreciate them, that they're thankful for them, that they're helping them? I mean, for me, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast without the help of my husband. Who else would be watching my child? Let that sink in. It's okay to say, wow, this person is being a great support system to me. I don't get the negative feedback. But this is what we run into. This is kind of what I wanted to talk about today. It's just the fact that we go to these places that are supposed to be safe spaces for parents, mothers and fathers alike, where it's set up to be that way, supposedly, where we're talking about, like I said, our wins, our joys, our struggles, all of that stuff. But when we get there, we're beat up, we're criticized, we're put down, we're made to feel less than. It's really shocking. It always surprises me. And this is why you do have a lot of people who end up saying, you know what, I'm not going to participate in these things. I mean, some people won't even go to like a mommy and me group or anything, if they could, because they realize that sometimes the parent groups, other parents can be really toxic. And it's like, how do we change that? And I thought about this and then I thought, you know what? Maybe we can't. Maybe we actually can't change that, because at the end of the day, a parent is still a human. They are still this person. And usually parenthood will change someone to where if they had certain views before becoming a parent, if they had certain attitudes, a lot of that really changes. A lot of times people become more mellowed out in a way, mellowed out, but also stronger at the same time, because they know they have a little one that they have to protect and defend. But mellowed out because there's this little one that they have to give love to and be gentle with. But for some people, it doesn't change them at all. Or maybe it makes them worse. I guess, for some people, if they were a jerk before they had a kid, they'll be a jerk after they had the kid. It always shocks me because, like I said, I always operate with the assumption that, wow, parenthood is going to really change this person. How exciting, how amazing to see what changes happen in their life, after going through such a magnificent experience. And the experience is every day. We have our ups and downs, we have our good times and bad times, but ultimately it's life-changing. But for some people, maybe it isn't. Or maybe it's life changing in the worst way. Maybe they become bitter and mean. I've seen posts where people feel like that their child is taking away their freedom, that they realize they really don't want kids. It's sad and it's true. Like I said, I like to keep this podcast really positive and upbeat and focused on the good things that are related to parenting. But again, this is real. I want to talk about real life with parents. I want you guys to listen to this and be able to say, wow, okay, I was thinking about this, or wow, somebody gets me. Because it's important, especially when we're going to these message boards and we think we have an outlet, but then we don't. We're not met with the support. And I want this place, this podcast, to be where you can find that support. Thank you guys, and we'll talk next time. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast today. I really appreciate the support. If you would like to get in touch or stay connected, please visit us on our Twitter or Instagram at Purpose in Parent. Also, if you're interested and would like to send a personal donation, because this is a labor of love, my Cash App is Torah Blessed, TorahBlessed. Thank you again so much for the support, guys, and I really look forward to chatting again next time.